a large part of the book is about remembering what we already know from our ancestors who lived close with the earth before modern technology. We tended, when we came into the modern world, threw all of those teachings out, all of those connections out. And being an Earth Caretaker is reclaiming that. One of the first ways we do that is build our relationship back up with the earth so that it's intimate and personal, so that we can feel what the earth feels, and so that we want to go to work for her. The second part, the actually taking on being an Earth Caretaker, that's a gift that everyone, no matter what your politics, your religion, anything you are, everyone can wake up every day and do good for the planet. Whether it's how we shop, whether it's creating a wildlife garden, whether it's feeding birds, whether it's voting to save land, whether it's volunteering, I can go on, but we can dedicate our lives to caring for the earth as Earth Caretakers, and it doesn't detract from any other aspect of our life. It only makes it better.
Welcome to the Earth Mates podcast. Together, we explore how to find your path from climate anxiety to community action by asking, who are you? Because just like any relationship, that matters. So get ready to be raw and real, but also playful and silly with me, Chief Relationship Officer Amber Peoples, as we discover what's possible through the lens of the 5 Earth archetypes. Curiosity and subscription buttons highly encouraged. Welcome, friends. Today we are recording this session with the grass outside my window. It is cool, it is green, and it is dry, which is unusual for wintertime here in Oregon. The moon is at a thin crescent. It's waxing. It's only 4 days old after the new moon. And what I would like to do with wherever you are listening to this, what is it that's around you right now? Can you tune into it for just a count of 5? I'm going to count silently in my head while you tune in. Thank you. Well, now I'm delighted to introduce you to our special guest, Tim Corcoran. We met about a year ago thanks to our mutual friend, Ryan Hunter. Ryan, as a teenager, was an apprentice at Tim's Outdoor School near Mount Shasta and a fellow marketing colleague of mine for about 2 years. In fact, when I first launched my website for Earth Relationship, Ryan reached out to me that day saying I just had to meet Tim. I was like, cool, who's Tim? And a week later, Ryan and I road tripped down to meet him in the land that are stewards. I even have the shirts today to prove how much I've fallen in love with Headwaters Outdoor School. And I'm excited to introduce you all to Tim and to continue the conversation between him and I. So welcome, Tim. I'm curious what your version of that story is when we first met and how we first connected.
Well, I get a lot of people come and find our school and hear about me and show up out of nowhere. And I really enjoyed the first meeting. It was really awesome. Your enthusiasm, I could tell immediately your connection to the land. And this land is an amazing place. And one of the things I love to do is watch, and without saying too much, people's reactions. And I could tell that the land grabbed you in only the way land can. And here we are, hence, So there's something to be said about that, just taking the time to let the land do that. And it's done that to so many people who have come to this land, even just for a visit. It's changed their lives, not even considering teaching in a school or saying even any words, just being here, something happens.
And I think when you and I have talked about that, it had a lot to do with what you even named the land, Headwaters. The proliferation of water on the land that you steward is so incredible to experience and to drink and to be a part of. Do you want to share anything more about what that water means or feels like to you?
About 6 miles above us is 3 lakes that are filled with spring water, and the creek comes out of there, and it flows down through our land in three different layers, the three different streams. So it really feels like we have three creeks, and then there's countless springs. And what's amazing about this, and hence the name Headwaters Outdoor School, New Beginnings, is this creek is one of the headwaters of the Klamath River, the giant river of Northern California that flows all the way to the Pacific Ocean and is filled with salmon. And, it's an amazing river, and we are one of the headwaters of that. The water also here is so clean. And, so many people today worry about water, rightfully so. Here we still could drink right out of our creek, and we have springs where I've actually had water experts, hydrologists, test the age of the water as it's coming out from the center, from down in the earth, the spring water. And it's as old as 5,000 years old when you drink it. And this one hydrologist told me that the water is as good as any water you drink anywhere on the planet Earth. So I consider it quite an honor to be the Earth caretaker of this land and be in this water. And just to wrap up this, every day, if I can, every day, and I'm committed to it, I'm jumping in the creek and getting covered with the water. And even now it's getting colder and a little more testy, but man, it's life force. It fills me up.
I love that. Not only do you take it in by drinking it, but also by immersing in it and being a part of it in that way, having that kind of relationship with it. And that actually brings me to a term that you used that I think is really important to you, the Earth Caretaker. In fact, it's the name of a book that you have, The Earth Caretaker's Way. And I want to dive into that. In particular, there's a sentence that really stood out to me. Nature is the most honest relationship we will ever have. What does that mean to you?
Well, what I mean by that is any human relationships we have, any business relationships, any other types of relationships, whether it's with something or an individual, there's always more to it. There's somebody's trying to get something, somebody's trying to figure out something. With nature, it's one of those pure relationships. The earth, the trees, the water, the animals, they're not trying to get anything from us. And they're really, it's just, you're able to just immerse yourself in the natural world if you're open to it. It's about as pure as you could get that I know of in life. There's just nothing on the sides, nothing coming in, trying to detract. So it allows you to kind of be in the moment. And it's in that moment that you feel that sacredness of the land. It comes into you. And like, for instance, getting in water is life. I mean, if you look at the earth from space, it's water, right? We can't live without water for more than a few days. Water is everything. And so to be able to immerse in it, get into it, and even underwater, drink the water, open your mouth and drink it and make it a part of you. That is the stuff of life. And it's the purest a relationship can be. There's just nothing on the sides happening. It's just, you are the water. I guess that's the best way I can put it. You are the water and the water is you. It's oneness. And it's in that connection that we feel that love for the earth come up in us, where we want to be protectors and caretakers and work with it. And often that feeling happens on a subliminal level. We don't even know it on intellectual level yet, but we feel it. And then that intellectual level pops in, and, we go forever with it. It's just an amazing opening.
I love what you shared there. It reminded me of kind of the two ends of the spectrum of Earth relationships, because within Earth relationship, there are 5 different types. And on either end, one I refer to as an embodied experience of oneness. And you really describe that with being one with the water as you're in it and drinking it and being with it. And it's an embodied experience that's almost impossible to translate to words. And then you said the intellect comes in, and that gets us to the other side, where it's more about confirming observations and the strategies to do that and confirm it, like you said, with, testing the age of the water and and other strategies like that. And so that's one of the things that I think you and I really connect on, is that there is this spectrum of being in relationship with the earth that's all honorable and all valuable.
Absolutely. It's that oneness that opens the door to so many other things. Like, it's when you have that relationship, then you start to realize everything is alive and and lives in its own unique way. And I think one of the most important things in that oneness is if you can practice being non-judgmental, have no judgments, just be present with things and let them come to you, then it goes to a higher, deeper, or meaningful level. And I think that's really huge. And the thing that keeps us from nature is we are judgmental. We're going to get too cold. We're going to get dirty. There's going to be bugs. We're going to get lost. All that keeps us from opening up. And so if we build our relationship up and just stay in the present, in the moment, so much teaching, so much subliminal connection happens that we don't even know at the moment, but it shows up in our life and how we live. And it's like the earth is saying, I've been waiting for you. Where have you been? Welcome home.
Oh, I love that. And what I'm hearing you getting closer and closer to is actually this other quote that I pulled from the Earth Caretaker's Way, which is, once your connection with nature is intimate, there is no going back. You will only go further and forward, and your life will profoundly change forever. You will know the earth as your friend, teacher, and partner in life. You will also find the earth as a healer. Take time to talk internally or outwardly through all of your senses to every tree, plant, insect, and animal in your spot. The blessings that can come out of this are profound. And so I'm loving that piece of, I think the key word in all of that is that word intimate. And that's really what you're describing with all of these spirit experiences. What's something that you can share that perhaps has happened to you today, or recently, where it really demonstrates that idea of what happens when you have an intimate relationship with the earth?
Well, today it's interesting right now. One of the things I do here is there's our wildland, which is many acres. And then we have the buildings we built for the school and kind of the infrastructure where we live. And around that, I've done what's called forest gardening. And it's where I've planted probably over 300 trees, maybe more, 80 fruit trees alone. And now it's been like 25 years or so, maybe almost 30 for some of them. So a lot of the environment is now become its own environment where I'm not having to caretake it as much. The trees have grown up so big. I mean, huge. And so what the most amazing thing is, every morning I get up, I walk out of my home and I look at these trees that I planted, as little tiny 3-foot tall trees. And they're now, some of them are 80 feet tall. And now we're in the middle of fall and the leaves are all changing color and blowing off the trees. And every day I see them transform and change. And I love, as I look up in the trees, I see the different songbirds and the blue jays and the doves, all that I feed as part of the earth gardening. They're up in the trees. And so every morning I get greeted by my birds, by my trees that I planted changing. I hear the water in the background, and I could go on and on. Everything's personal. The rock walls, I see all the toads going into them that I saved from the local pond where they were getting run over by cars on the side of the pond. So I could go on and on, but it's all personal. But in fact, recently, we're out. We just got a bear visited us for about 2 weeks in a row, ate all my bird feeders, and they ate every apple off our trees. And finally, I think I've gotten him to move on. And but we just had this great time though, just looking at all his tracks he's left, his droppings, his fur on the plants, the apples he's eaten, trying to negotiate with him to not hang out so I can, don't have to worry about things as much. So it's all personal. So I wake up in the morning, I come out the door, and they're all my friends. And I feel like they feel that for me too. on another level. Not the same as a human level, but if you don't judge, it's not one is not better than the other. It's just wonderful. And so every day I get to wake up to that. So that's about as personal as it gets.
I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into this book because I know it's really personal for you and really important for you. And so I would like to hear why you decided to write the book.
Well, this book, it's called The Earth Caretaker Way. It's been a vision of mine for many, many years. And I've been slowly over about 10 years writing this book. Actually, on the big island of Hawaii, I was out watching a sunset, and this vision came to write this book, and that human beings, when we're at our best, we are all earth caretakers if we choose to be. It's in us, and it's in us. We can't deny it. It comes from our ancestors who lived with the earth for 30, 40, 50, 60,000 years. They lived intimately with the earth. They are our brethren. They are our blood is their blood, right? So a large part of the book is about remembering what we already know from our ancestors who lived close with the earth before modern technology. We tended, when we came into the modern world, threw all of those teachings out, all of those connections out. And being an earth caretaker is reclaiming that. One of the first ways we do that is build our relationship back up with the earth so that it's intimate and personal, so that we can feel what the earth feels, and so that we want to go to work for her. The second part, the actually taking on being an earth caretaker, that's a gift that everyone, no matter what your politics, your religion, anything you are, everyone can wake up every day and do good for the planet. Whether it's how we shop, whether it's creating a wildlife garden, whether it's feeding birds, whether it's voting to save land, whether it's volunteering, I could go on, but we can dedicate our lives to caring for the earth as earth caretakers. And it doesn't detract from any other aspect of our life. It only makes it better.
Mm. Yeah, I think that is a really interesting dilemma that we as humans have, is how do we bring these stories and these practices from a more ancient time that is in our bones, is in our blood, while also navigating this modern world. And one of the things that I keep thinking as I hear you talk about how you relate to the nature that is around you is thinking of it almost like that person that perhaps you just want to hear from. And so I'm hearing a similar thing with you about how perhaps through your school, you're encouraging people to form that relationship, is putting out those pings, so to speak, to figure out what does that relationship and that connection feel like. Is it an internal thing? I guess there's also an external, because you're using all of your senses. But I think where this question kind of lands is like, what does the Earth Caretaker's Way mean to you?
So the Earth Caretaker Way, to me, it means it's reclaiming basically our birthright to be children of the earth. I know that sounds kind of funny, but it's really true. We are children of the earth. The earth, if there's ever a true mother, besides the ones that birthed us, it's our earth. She gives us everything to live and every other being on the earth to live. And the earth is a living being unto herself. So in reclaiming that birthright, it's reclaiming those relationships. And in that process, we remember what we already know from our ancestors, is that we can go out into the nature and be a part of it. We don't have to feel like we don't belong or like it's not safe or it's not okay. It's our home, and we can go into it and be in our home, enjoy our home, live in our home, whether we're living off the land, eating wild plants, hunting and fishing, whether we're just enjoying a walk in the woods, whether we're gardening and farming with the earth, all of it, it's our home. And everything gets better when we know that. And you were mentioning the senses. If we start to, one of the great gifts we have for connecting to the earth is our five senses. And as we start to work with them, if I back up a little, in the modern world, we tend to shut our senses down a lot because there's so much coming at us. You know, we don't want to smell diesel fuel. We don't want to hear horns honking. We don't want to hear, you know, things like that. So we shut down our senses. But imagine for a minute what our ancestors' senses must have been like when they lived every day in the woods, didn't have all the modern things to get in the way. They were way more heightened than our senses are today. So one of the things you do when you go into the woods, and we teach in the school, and it's in the book, is how to bring your senses alive again to that incredible place. So, and then the whole world becomes like a highlight reel. You hear better, you see better, you smell better, you taste better, you feel better. Every sense becomes more vivid and powerful. And then that makes you want to get involved more. Like, instead of just looking at a tree, you want to go up and smell it. You want to go up and touch it. You want to eat an apple from it. You know, you start to feel the call from the living things of the earth calling you into their world, and you're more willing to go. And then, hey, well, I like to say the magic happens.
There's a couple things I heard in there that home piece. I really love that you bring that up, because one of the things I think we either don't know or forget very quickly is the term eco, E-C-O, whether that's ecology or economics. They all have that same root, which literally translates, I believe in Greek, to home.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, right. And I find that really fascinating. And that's actually why one entire Earth relationship of the 5 really focuses on who are the type of people and what is that brainwave and sense of belonging that happens when you're really in that place of viewing nature as home, viewing the world as home. And that sense of, you mentioned safety, which I think is really interesting, because I've been able to observe now some people that maybe they were 8th graders, maybe they were 40-year-olds, but I've seen some spectrum now of people arriving on the land, and when where they're going to stay for the time that they're there is introduced to them, which are these amazing structures that have like an open access, I guess you could say, to the land, to the air. There's some that immediately drop into that and feel really safe in that and actually really cozy. And others that they look at that door and they're like, what's going to come get me in the middle of the night? And there's this like tension and fear. And I find that dichotomy really fascinating and interesting about that way of how do we find that sense of safety when we're in nature? And is that inherent? Can that be developed? And I'm curious, with all the different students that you've worked with over the years, those that are struggling to find that sense of safety, what words of wisdom or stories or experiences do you help them have so that they can begin to develop that?
Well, I usually like to try to push people past their edges, places they think they want to quit. And so one great teacher for that in nature is trees. And we all love trees. I mean, I don't think I've ever met a human being. I often think about what are the things that all humans have in common? What's commonality with us? I don't know. I've never met anybody who didn't love trees. Everybody loves trees. So trees are a great gift for that. And so I often have people climb trees, and we have one tree particularly loves to be climbed here, and it's about 120 feet tall, and some people will go to the very top. And as they climb the tree, it's like a ladder. It's a Douglas fir tree. It's fairly safe because it's like a ladder. The branches are closed, and you can hold on. And you get up near the top, maybe 100 feet, and you look out to the east, and you see Mount Shasta. It's an amazing view of the mountain from the tree. All that time you're doing that, you're releasing a lot of your fear, because many people have fear of heights, or being uncomfortable is another huge one for people. So you get tree sap on you, you get bark on you, you get branches on you. So it pushes people past those edges. The other thing I find is a great teacher for helping people to get really close to nature and push past their fears is going off trail, going off trail through the brush, through the woods, through the meadows, through the thicker brush. The places that you look at and you go, no, I don't think I would do that. Do it. And then the other one is going barefoot. Barefooting, it puts you past a lot of your fears, because the first fear you have is getting your feet hurt, right? So you have to walk carefully, which means you're being careful with the earth. You're gentle with her as you're walking. You learn to place your feet in certain ways so you don't get hurt. They toughen up through time. The earth is coming up through your feet into your body. You're feeling her. You're massaging her. She's massaging you. You know, you're looking, as you walk barefoot, you tend to start to move past your fear of things like insects and things, because you'll start to notice things more, and you'll start to notice how you affect the world where you put your feet down. So instead of being fearful of some beetle you see walking on the ground, another thing that scares a lot of people is insects. Instead of being so fearful of that beetle, you're going to gently want to step around it, not hurt it, not crush it, because it has a right to life too. And so that opens up whole new doorways to go deeper. And so getting kind of the long and short of this is getting out of your comfort zone, pushing those edges slowly, sometimes fast, sometimes. And what you had mentioned at the start of this question, sleeping out in the shelters. Another incredible gift that I try to have people do is not only sleep in the earth shelters, which are great, but to sleep out under the stars. Yes, it makes you feel vulnerable. Yes, a bear could come up and sniff you in the middle of the night. More likely a pack rat would, though, not a bear. Birds could come and check you out in the morning, I could tell you this great story to kind of wrap this answer up. I had this woman come here years ago. She was a world-renowned psychic, and she had this tremendous fear of aliens coming to get her. And she was set out in the woods for 4 days and 4 nights, no food, just water, alone. It was what we call a vision quest. She was seeking answers for her life from nature and spirit in nature. And she had this tremendous fear about these aliens. Now, whether you believe that or not, it doesn't matter. We live in Mount Shasta, and it's like a big deal. And it was real to her. It's not for me to judge. So the last night of 4 nights, she's sitting out there, and I mean, exhausted, no food, no water. She's in her sleeping bag under the stars. She hears a sound. Her head is down in the bag, and another sound, and another sound, and another sound all around her. And she's like, sure, the aliens have come. And she finally gets the guts up, the bravery to look out, and she's surrounded by 14 cows. And they'd broken through my neighbor's fence, and they all went to her and surrounded her. So they were aliens in a way. They were not natural to the woods, but they were very peaceful and friendly. And it was such a great teaching for her. It changed her life. She went on to have this incredible career. And so getting out of that comfort zone, pushing those edges, and big deal.
Yeah, I think that seems to be a recurring theme of the so much of the ways that we've distanced ourselves from nature is in this effort to be comfortable, and reimagining what does comfort look like if it's more in connection, I think is a really interesting and important question. And one of the other things that to go back to the book for a moment is an interesting aspect that I know I experienced when I read your book. There was almost a sense of discomfort. There's so many stories within the book. There's so many little anecdotes within the book that the book made more sense for me when you and I talked about how it is this almost choose your own adventure style. And I'm curious if you can share why that was an important way for you to write this book.
The book I kind of designed the book for 3 different things. One is, I want it to be I love books, and I love reading, and I know that the art of reading is passing away with a lot of people, but I love being able to hold a book. It becomes a very, I guess, spiritual thing. The book itself becomes like a living being. And anybody here who's listening, they've ever had a book they just absolutely love. You just love it. You love it when it gets worn on the edges, and pages get a little torn. You might have a note written in there. It becomes alive with you from you reading it. That's really special. So the book, in designing the book, I wanted it to be a beautiful, almost like art piece. We have beautiful drawings in there that a number of the people who are helping me with the book are doing to put in there. So that'll be in there. And so it's designed that you can open it up to any page and get something inspirational. You could read that page and it might awaken something in you or ignite a fire in you to go out in the woods or do something for the earth. It could also be looked at as a text, like a textbook, and you could read it through it all the way through and learn how to build your relationship with the earth and be an earth caretaker. But then, of course, you've got to put the book down and go out to nature and practice. That's a really important part. And then the last one is it's the book. Not only would it be a reference book and one you can open up, but it's the kind of a book that can call to you. Like it could just be sitting there and you'll look at it and you'll just be called to go over and open it up, pick it up and look and go, wow, that spoke to me. And I remember in a lot of my life as a teacher, sometimes I'll have a beautiful poetry book or a beautiful book like that. And I'll often look for a message for the day and I'll just close my eyes and open it up and see what I get. I've done that a lot in my life and it's just amazing what comes. And I want this book to be able to be like that. You know, to be able to get that message for the day. So it's an art book. It's a instantaneously open up, get a message. It's a book, a book you can look up things in, and a book you can read through and through. So it's got kind of all of that. And I hope it'll have the medicine of you take it in the woods and it's got the mud on it, and the dirt, the leaves, and the animals have chewed the edges of it. That would make me very happy.
I love that visual. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for those layers. Like I hear, as you kind of pointed out, 3 distinct layers and even a 4th there at the end with the just like you talked about climbing in that tree and getting a branch on you and getting maybe a little scratched or sap. And you're actually really excited to have these books have a similar experience out in the world. And so I absolutely love that. And I actually want to note that you are the main author of the book, but you actually have 2 other authors that are really important to consider in this as well. And I know one of them is Julie, who works and stewards the land with you for a long time. I know the 2 of you have quite a story. And I've grabbed a clip that Julie wrote that I'd love to share, and then have you just kind of talk about that collaboration and perhaps what Julie wrote here, which is: speak with the spirits and get to know the individuals. Listen to their stories, acknowledge them, have reverence, find out where they are from, connect with them personally, get to know them personally. Open up a conscious relationship with them, and there will be no reason to fear them. They have a lot to share. Curious to hear once again, like, this story and why you felt it was important to include Julie's voice in it as well.
Well, Julie came to Headwaters, gosh, probably 20 years ago now, around that. And, you know, her whole life changed. She was a swim coach in the Bay Area, worked with kids, you know, big time swim coach. And she came here for a class, and we actually, half the class was here on the land, Headwaters land itself. And then we also took her, it was our nature awareness class, and it's called nature awareness class. And we were doing in the Marble Mountain Wilderness the other half of the time. So that's a true wilderness area, roadless place, not far from here, thousands of acres of land. And she went into there and her life changed. I mean, the land grabbed her, the teachings grabbed her. But really, I like to say the teachings of the school, they were very important. They opened the door. But the land grabbed her, and she couldn't look back. I'm getting chills as I say it right now. She couldn't look back. And literally, it was a time when the school was in transition. The person who was caretaking for me and a person that was cooking for the school, they were both leaving. And she just quit her job down there. I invited her to come and do it. She didn't know how to cook. She was going to be our main cook. She didn't know any of this stuff. She moved into a yurt and took on helping me run the school. And so she just built her life here, and every day out running our dogs out on the land. And so when it came time to do the book, I knew she had editing skills. And so she started editing my work and cleaning it up and such, because sometimes I write really, really rapidly and fast and it needs a lot of work. And then she just got inspired to start writing herself. And I thought it was beautiful. So I said, yeah, let's get your writings in there. And she was talking in that quote you had about the spirits of the earth is when you build your senses up, when you take more time, you slow down and you go in the woods and you just be there, the layers of life start to show up. And not all layers are seen with the eye or felt with the physical body. There are countless other layers of life in nature, as there is in all life everywhere. And most people believe that one way or another, if you really get honest about it. So much about the unseen with the eyes part of the world in nature, we feel it. We feel the presence of other beings. And so that's what she was talking about in that quote. But you have to slow down, be open. And one of the keys to that, I find, is having your heart open. It's vital. The heart is one of the keys. Trusting your gut, your intuitive feeling. We call it in this work inner vision. When you get a feeling about something, not doubting it, not questioning it, but letting it come forth and going with it. And not always having to understand what something is or why something is there. Being okay with just feeling something, knowing something's there, and letting it be. And again, that comes back to dropping judgment, dropping fear, and being as present as possible. And then really the layers of life in nature come out. But when we realize that everything else has a right to life, it's just, I kind of try to put it this way. Everything out there is just trying to live like we are. They're just trying to feed themselves, breathe, be safe, get through their day. We're all in it together.
Wonderful. Yeah. What I love about kind of your extended answer there is I think again the meaning is perhaps like a layer within that. And that might be a good way for people to understand as they dive into your book, is to understand that every story you're telling has layers to it, and the reader gets to kind of interpret that. And so one of the things that I interpreted when I heard your story here is your emphasis on observation. And one of the things that was beautiful about your story about how Julie became a co-author was that it was what sounds like kind of a series of observations that you had. You wrote this book, you had observed that Julie was a good editor, so you asked and she said yes, so great. And then Julie was like, I actually have something interesting to say here. And you observed that and you took that in and was like, yeah, actually, that is a really important voice to have. And so I'm hearing this series of observations that led to Julie becoming a co-author that once again reflects how I'm interpreting what you're sharing around how to also build a relationship with the earth in these series of observations.
You kind of went away.
Uh-oh.
There you are.
I'm back. One of the things that I love about Tim is sometimes I'm not sure if it's something like a technology glitch or if he's just really taking in and listening, which I think proves my point even more, because I was talking about how you really observe and take that in. And so in that moment, I wasn't sure. It's like, is he just really listening and figuring it out and observing? And so I kind of loved that happened in that moment. I think it's perfect.
I'm not the greatest technology person. It makes my head spin.
What I do want to do is pull out a section that I believe was written from the Earth Carekeeper's voice, and then have you just talk about either this particular section that I bring out or this more personal relationship that you have with the Earth Keeper and why you felt it was important to have that voice as well in the book. So this little section is actually has a title. The title is Steps Count, and the language is: to walk anywhere in nature is to walk on some being's home. To walk anywhere in nature is a chance to practice kindness. Look where you step. Every step you take can make a difference to somebody's life. Make your steps kind steps, steps toward a kinder world. So whatever you want to share about that, Tim, from what I believe with how the book was written, it was from the Earth Keeper's voice.
First of all, I got to say that's profound saying. That really hit me. And the Earth Keeper is. I thought about not putting. I'll start by saying I thought about not putting anything about the Earth Keeper in the book because I think part of me thought, human beings, we tend to have a difficult time with anything we don't know directly or that's right in front of us. So when you start talking about spirits or spirituality or beings that you can't see or you feel, it's really hard for a lot of human beings to make the leap that there's possible something could be truthful with that could be real. Even though in all aspects of our lives, we experience that kind of thing, we just don't really acknowledge it much in daily life. But I really believe in truth. This book comes from the heart, the deepest part of me. It's a lot of it's about my legacy. So I thought, I'm not holding anything back. I'm just going to put it out there, and the right people are going to get it the right time. And I'm okay with that. And so I wanted to share about this incredible experience. And when I first came to this land, I've been looking for a long time. I knew since I was a kid that I was destined to have a piece of land that I would caretake, live on, and have like a homestead on. And I didn't know in my early years I was going to have a school, but that came later too. And I was having a hard time finding land. I had this realtor and a really good friend with me. And I had a wolf dog named Joseph, who I loved. I named him after Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce tribe because he could appear and disappear at will. And I'm always looking for a sign when I find something. I'm very superstitious. And so I find this land. The realtor, I'm driving in a truck with him, and he goes, he's got a call. This place came up for sale. And I was kind of frustrated because we hadn't found anything. So we drive down this really rough dirt road. We walk out on the land with my wolf dog, the realtor who I really liked. He became a good friend and he became like a basketball buddy of mine. We play basketball all the time. And we connected with the land. And I had a couple of really good friends who I trusted. I walk out onto the land. I immediately was taken because I heard the water. And the water called to me. And that was already a sign that I needed. I was also at the time a falconer. And I had a beautiful red-tailed hawk that was injured that I'd cared for years. And I was looking at the creek when we approached it. And coming downstream, floating towards me, was the centered tail feather of a red-tailed hawk. Only one on the whole bird. I picked that up out of the creek, never saw the bird, but it was another sign that, yes, this is the place. And I felt my wolf dog was running around, loving the land. My friends were loving it. We're getting in the water. And all of a sudden, I feel this presence. And I feel, and I'm getting chills when I say it. And I looked up in this tree above me, and I saw this being there. It makes me want to cry. And I didn't discount it. And there he was looking at me. And it was all through feeling and all knowing. He just said, get the land. And then the rest will become clear. I looked at the realtor. We bought the land that afternoon. And then it started to unfold. And I call him the Earth Keeper. And he's been my spiritual friend on this land forever now. When I walk, he's with me. He looks out after me. He's like a protector. But he's more than anything, he's a protector of this land. And he told me that there are spiritual Earth Keepers all over the world looking after land. And that one of my jobs as a human being was to do the same in the physical. And it's one of the gifts that all people have within them, but that some people really rise to that occasion and, take it to great feats. Like think about the creation of the national park system. That was something, somebody had a vision and they made it happen. But and so I guess to bring us full circle, more than anything, he's my friend, my inspirational friend. And often I'll go in the woods. I recommend this to everyone. Take a beautiful notebook that becomes yours, do drawings, write stories, things in it. And he'll often give me things to write. And that's what I put into the book, things that he told me to write. And it's one of the greatest relationships of my life. And if people have trouble believing that kind of thing, in this way of teaching, the nature way, I like to say there are no limits. There are no limits, which means anything's possible. And the more you open up, the more you get to participate in this incredible earth we live on and all the gifts she has for us. And I look at the Earth Keeper as a gift to me, and not just to me, but it's very personal for me.
Thank you for sharing such a tender story with all of us. And I think that, you know, another piece of that is how the way that you shared that and spoken throughout is you're really open with the moments where something really tender touches you. You're also open with the moments where something angers you, and you're also open with the moments where something makes you question, and just your willingness to be open with that variety of experiences that are part of your life and your world is really a gift for all of us to be able to be a part of. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So with that, I think that'll actually lead us into a bit of a change in the conversation. We are working together on some aspects of the book, and we're also working on an aspect of the film project that I'm working on. And I know that you and I have had several conversations around things over this past year. And just recently, you know, we actually got to be on the land with a very small crew and do some beginning level work on the project. As you think about inviting such a, I guess you could say almost modern project onto the land, how do you make that choice, or how do you tune into saying, yeah, this actually feels in alignment with this larger message that I want to share? Even as you imagine like 35 people swirling around with cameras and sound gear and boom mics and things like that.
Well, remember, we're a school, so we have many months where we have up to 80 people here sometimes. You know, so I'm used to people being on the land. And yeah, I know this land so intimately. Like right now, there's nobody on the land hardly. So it's the land on the off season. We call it the off season from November through March. The land gets a chance to recover from all the feet walking around, everybody breaking branches and this and that. But I also realize this land is a teacher. It wants people here. It wants to ignite a fire in people to go out and work for the earth. And I know that. I know the land itself wants that. It's, like I said, I think it's a local power spot for Mount Shasta. So it ignites this burning fire in people who go out and fight for the earth. So people here making a film for the earth, you're good people. You're doing the right thing. I'm all into it. And I have no issue with technology. I mean, technology is like anything else in life. It can be good or it can be horrible. I mean, it's the human brain, right? We created the nuclear bomb, right? We can destroy ourselves. That's technology going pretty bad. But technology can also be used for the good. And in fact, moving forward into the future and caring for our planet and global warming, we're not going to do it without technology. Technology is going to be a huge part of caring for our earth in the future. So we have to learn to build a relationship with it and going forward. And, you know, one thing that really kind of taught me about this was I used to have this guy that would come over and work on our computers, and his name was Kevin. And he was a computer whisperer. I would watch him, and I love to watch people. Like, I think I could have been an anthropologist. I love human observation. And I would watch him work with the computers, and he would go into them. He would feel them. He would feel their living. I don't know how to put it into words. They were like living beings to him. He would like grok them, you know, and it really taught me a lot to watch him. He was like a whisperer for the, computer whisperer and it was really a good teaching for me. And the other part of technology is technology can be really bad if you overuse it, like cell phones, for example. I think they're really hurting our children a lot, keeping them away from nature. But if you use cell phones as a tool and you take them out and put them away, then they're an incredible, wonderful thing, you know. They take beautiful photographs of the earth. So it's not as clear cut. It's not black and white. There's a lot of shades of gray. And I'm happy to have the crew here. I revel in seeing everybody making a film and being happy and enjoying it. And then it's incredibly exciting to think about, like I'm thinking about my book coming out and changing the world. It's incredible to think about that film being birthed to the world and doing its part to change the world for the better too, which I mean, connected us more deeply to the earth and going out and making a difference. So I'm good with it. Once in a while I will probably talk to your film crew, about the 30 of them, and say, walk carefully, don't smash that beetle, don't crush those ants, be gentle. And I think they'll respond well, and it'll be good. And probably everybody on your film crew, if they spend 30 days here, they're going to be touched by the plan. I imagine when they leave, they're going to be different people. They might laugh at that, but I would be willing to bet everything on it. You too.
I'm actually hoping for that myself. As I think about the casting process for both the people in front of the camera and behind the camera, it's maybe the sound person who's never used a composting toilet before, and after 30 days of using that, they figure out how to incorporate that into their life. Or the cast members that are working on a project together. There's something about a walk that they go on that totally inspires a leap forward in that project. And even to another sense, like in my dream world, this group of us becomes this community that we can all rely on at any point in the future, because we've had this experience together that is truly special and unique. And a big part of that is because of the land itself and navigating that land together. And so I love that. That's a similar knowledge or hope or intuition that rests with you, because it's a big one for me. So that makes me absolutely really delighted. And it actually leads me to to nearing the end of this conversation. Something that really touched me was I had just finished the work sample for Climate of Awe. I had gone through the editing process, and to be honest, the editing process was pretty brutal on me. My emotional state in the editing process was pretty gnarly.
Yeah,
I think of all the many different shares, I've gotten a lot of really great feedback that will help the story, which is fantastic. And I think the sharing that you and I had was the one that helped the wound that kind of had developed during that editing process, which is, and I don't know if you remember it or not, but it was this moment where you had watched it and you wanted me to know that I wasn't alone. You wanted to know that you saw the visionary element in the film, even through the rough patches and the parts that, now I've learned how to do it better next time. But you saw that visionary quality, and you know that sometimes that visionary element can feel really unseen and alone. And it really, really touched me. I just want to express my gratitude for that moment, because it was one that I really needed. And I think it says a lot to you as a person that you can sense into that moment. And I think that your book helps give moments of like that for people too, as they're reading the book, is having those moments where there's something that will be felt really seen and touched within them. And so I don't know if there's a response on your side from that, but I know that I wanted to express that gratitude and that sense of connection.
My only thing I would say is it's all comes from the heart, and it's the heart of the earth that comes through. It's that, and I realize when you're a visionary person, and I don't mean when I say that a visionary person is any better than anybody else. We all have our gifts. But often when you're a visionary person, there's two challenges. One is to take it from the visionary part and whatever you're envisioning and actually make it real. That's a huge challenge. There's so many visionary people that never get beyond the vision. And then realizing when you're a visionary person, you do feel alone a lot. you feel often like you're the only one that knows this or sees this or feels this. And the truth is that's not true, but there is a part of that that probably is true. And you need to learn to be able to do it yourself, to hold the space for yourself, but also realize when you get the chance, you're not alone. And I wanted to let you know that. And we need the strength of each other to go forward. These are some challenging times and coming forth, and we need the strength of our fellow human animal beings as well as nature.
Thank you so much, Tim. So with all these questions that I've asked, I have one last question, which is, of all these different topics that we've covered and worlds that we've danced around, what is something you wished I would have asked that you would like the opportunity to share before we exit this podcast?
Man, yes, I'm not sure. Let me think. I wish you'd have asked. I'm not. It's not coming clear, but I wish you'd have asked what is this background behind me?
Yes, excellent. Please.
That could lead to a whole nother story that could go on for another podcast.
Can you give us the 2-minute version?
Yeah, you're seeing some of my photographs. I'm sitting in my art gallery, my photographic gallery, and my library. Two of the things that have guided me so much in my life is books. I've been a reader since day one, and I can remember. So I'm in my library, and I even have the books in this library from when I was 10, 11, 12 years old that changed my life. I remember one of them was about the great auk. It was about the life of a bird called the great auk, which was a bird that lived in the North Atlantic. It was a flightless bird, pretty good size, about 3 feet tall. And they were completely wiped out by humans. And they literally remember the last ship captain. He killed the last mother and father and crushed the egg of that bird and the entire species. And I read that when I was about 11, I think. And it got me on the path of fighting for the earth. It changed my life. And then the other thing that so much took me deep into nature was photography. And I'm looking just over this way to the left a little, and I'm seeing this 35 millimeter camera my father gave me when I was 12. And we took a trip around the United States. I went with my mentor, a guy named Bo Almroth, and his son, who was my best friend. We went to 35 states, backpacking, wilderness travel, cities, wildlife, you name it, exploring the country. We finished the trip with my rite of passage, the ceremony that brought me into manhood, where I climbed up Mount Shasta. So it was this full circle trip, and I photographed that whole trip. Hence, I've been able to do one of the things I love so much, show my love of nature through my photography. I now have had a gallery for 20 years here in Mount Shasta. And every one of those pictures, it was I would call it a sacred moment in nature. And when I took that photograph, it was in me for life. And I've often said I'm a seeker of sacred moments in nature. And my photography is one way I express my love. And you don't have to be a photographer, but it's going out on those highlight moments, the sun setting, the sun rising, the breaking storm, where the nature is the most powerful, and she can come into you and ignite a fire in you to be an earth caretaker. And that's just part of my story I wanted to share, and how that all happened. And that can happen for anybody with anything, to become an earth caretaker in those different ways that it gets ignited that we do in nature. And I still love photography.
I love that. Yes, I've had the delight to revel in walking by and seeing the rotating pictures in your gallery as they've changed over the last year, and I love what you said there about that ignition. What is it in you that that gets excited to connect with the earth. Because just like in human to human relationships, there's got to be a draw, there's got to be an excitement. And so part of that is being honest about who you are and what it is that inspires you and drives you. And so that artistry that you described there is a beautiful testament to an example of, trying something and seeing what happens within you. So thank you, Tim. Thank you, everyone out there. Go check out Tim's book, The Earth Caretaker's Way. You can find it on Amazon, and you can also find it on the website, Earth Caretaker's Way. And I also look forward to when the movie Climate of Awe is out, so that you can get more of a feel of what it's like to live and love with the land that is Headwaters Outdoor School. Until next time. Hey, Earthmate. How did that episode resonate? Did it stretch you, inspire you, or perhaps irk you? I'm here for it, so please reach out. Besides the socials, we have a community to practice with on our website, eartharchetypes.com, where more Earth archetypes can guide your path and become dear friends. A great place to start is the quiz to discover your type. Oh, and on your way, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button. See you again soon.